Hello, BISC130 and BISC132. So this is the beginning of what I'm calling recorded lecture 0 or 00. This short video is just meant to be an introduction to these recorded lectures and what they're like. So I'm assuming that you've been to at least one of my in-person lectures, and you've noticed that I have PowerPoint slides, I've got figures on these slides, and same thing is going to be true in these recorded lectures. Oh, by the way, this is the middle of chapter 6. I jumped in just to use some of these slides as an example. So the slides, the figures here in the recorded lecture are the same figures that I use in my in-person lecture. The other thing that I do during my in-person lectures is I will write notes. So after describing some process and showing you a visual for this, I'll write something down on the document camera. In the recorded lecture, I have text like this, which is going to be the same as what I write in class. Pretty consistent from quarter to quarter. Maybe I'll write down enzyme assumes its original shape instead of this, but there's not going to be any substantial difference between the text of the recorded lecture and the text of in the in-person lecture. So this is going to be one-to-one. This is meant to be one-to-one. This is meant to be kind of the same thing. Just like I have key terms that I highlight throughout my in-person lecture. I'll highlight them literally here in the recorded lectures as well. These are both highlighted, so these are both in the key terms. And again, you'll have to refer to another document up on Canvas with a list of key terms and study those. Speaking of studying, that's another thing that I really want to point out. So these recorded lectures themselves, going through all of these figures and the text that I have, they are a great way to get caught up if you missed some class or for whatever reason, or if you just need to hear something again, or you missed a few lines of notes because whatever happened. You can use these as a complete replacement for the in-person lectures if you just want to watch these videos and whatever. It is dangerous though to just watch these videos, just listen to me talk about enzyme activators or whatever, and think that you understand this and that you're prepared for the exam. Just listening to these lectures is a very passive way of taking in information. I think the best ideal, in my opinion, way to use these lectures is to watch them, hear my explanations, and pause as I come to these lines of text and type them out yourself. Write them out yourself. That's doing something active instead of just listening. When I have figures like this, you could glance at them, look at them, but I would recommend pausing these. And if it's a simple enough figure, or if it's a figure that I use many times throughout the lecture, coming back to many times, try to draw this yourself, as long as you're doing something active as you study instead of just sitting here and listening to the recording. That's going to help you immensely as you prepare for the exams. Other things to point out, I base my test questions based on the text that I have either here or what I write down in class. So I may have a big complicated figure like this with all these labels about allosteric inhibition and allosteric site, but if all I say is that inhibitors reduce an enzyme's function, this is all you really need to know. So don't sweat the details on any of these figures if they're not details that I didn't call out. Similarly, I may have big tables like this, just a ton of examples of, in this case, cofactors and what they are used for. Again, you don't have to memorize these sorts of tables, this big lists of information. For this example, all you need to know is the definition of a cofactor, the definition of a coenzyme, how they're similar and different, in order to be prepared for the exam. The other things I want to mention as far as studying goes, again, I think these recorded lectures are a fantastic resource if you use them appropriately to do some sort of active studying with these. The textbook is also a decent resource. Again, it's 100% free online. There's a link to it in the syllabus. I try to follow the sections of the textbook. You will notice that I don't cover every single section, every single learning outcome. So in those ways, the textbook is maybe a little bit clunky because it's not exactly one-to-one. But, if you know the topic at hand and you just want an explanation in a slightly different way, if you just want to look at enzyme catalysis, sometimes reading a paragraph in the textbook and just having their explanation is another way to hear it that maybe will just click in your brain a little bit better. I don't recommend reading the textbook cover to cover, but yeah, using it as a resource to look things up when you're a little confused is a great way to use that. Students often ask me about other YouTube channels or other video resources. There are a million of them out there. I can't specifically call out any of them to recommend because I haven't vetted all of these channels and everything that they've said. I'm sure they're not telling outright lies about enzyme catalysis. The biggest problem with using other resources is, I have a certain level of detail that I go into things, the sort of information that I put in, the sort of information that I leave out, and I can't promise that other resources you find may have less detail and then you won't be prepared for my exam, or maybe they'll have more detail and you'll be very overwhelmed trying to study, taking in a ton of information. So I'm sure you Google enzyme catalysis and search videos or whatever, you're going to find a million things, but I can't say whether they're appropriate or not. These videos are from me, and I'm the one who also wrote the tests, so these are a great resource for that. I think that's all I had to say for this quick intro. Again, this is just some advice about how you should use these recorded lectures and maybe how you shouldn't use these recorded lectures. So yeah, armed with this, go ahead with the rest of them.